Yves Duclos, minister responsible for the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, announces Canada's National Housing Plan in Vancouver. Nick Precalo PNG. The Trudeau government unveiled Wednesday its long-awaited national housing strategy, something the country hasn't had in a generation or two. Lord knows, we need one. At first blush, one might be impressed by the Liberals' apparent commitment to housing from reading their announcement, including the claim that a whopping $40 billion will be spent to reduce homelessness and improve the availability and quality of housing for Canadians in need. That's until you read further. In fact, in terms of actually creating or improving homes, the federal government is only ponying up $4.7 billion. Another $11.2 billion will be in the form of low-interest loans provided by Ottawa, together with a $15.9 billion National Housing Co-Investment Fund that aims to build up to 60,000 new homes and repair 240,000 existing homes. The announcement didn't say how much would be spent on new homes versus renovations, but if you divide $15.9 billion by 300,000 homes, it's only $53,000 per home, which doesn't go far these days. The plan also includes $8.6 billion for a Canada Community Housing Initiative in partnership with provinces and territories, $4 billion for a Canada Housing Benefit that will give an average of $2,500 per year to the needy for housing, again, in partnership with the provinces and territories that won't be launched until 2022. $2 billion to reduce homelessness and $541 million to address housing needs in the North and for research. The bulk of the $40 billion is expected to come from provincial, territorial and municipal governments as well as non-profits, cooperatives, and the private sector. But there is no guarantee this other cash will arrive. Further, while some of these numbers seem significant, they really aren't when you consider that the cash is being spent over 10 years beginning in 2019 and across 10 provinces and 3 territories. If the strategy is building 60,000 homes over a decade, that's only 6,000 a year across Canada. On a per capita basis, BC might expect to receive 600 homes a year. When you consider, according to the City of Vancouver Housing Characteristics Fact Sheet from April, that 16,035 BC households were on social housing waiting lists in 2016, that as of March 8, 2,138 people Vancouver were homeless, and that in 2011 the most recent data 48,645 Vancouver households, 20% of all households, were in core housing need. The strategy begins to look pretty anemic, not as life-changing as the Prime Minister bragged. Those and similar numbers across Canada are why federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh dismissed the strategy as too little, too late. But action is needed, he said, and it's hard to disagree. There are 1.7 million Canadians that don't have access to adequate housing, Singh told reporters. We can't wait for funding. We need it now. Tory leader Andrew Scheer focused on Liberal spending that has pushed up taxes on regular Canadians, taking away money they could use to improve their housing. Scheer also has a point. Traditionally, housing strategies have not only helped the underclasses, as this one does. In typical Trudeau 2.0 fashion, it focuses on all the politically correct groups: seniors, Indigenous peoples, survivors of family violence, people with disabilities, refugees, veterans, and those grappling with homelessness. To quote the announcement, the plan also talks about input from feminists and addressing climate change to live it up even further. How about just build some inexpensive housing for people? But what about regular Canadians who work hard but don't earn enough to compete for housing? What are the Trudeau Liberals doing for them? Not much. Past housing plans, starting in the 1940s when servicemen were returning from war, gave working people a leg up. In a March opt-in policy options, Greg Sarter, author of Still Renovating: A History of Canadian Social Housing Policy, said, one challenge in preparing a national housing strategy is to connect the issues faced by lower-income Canadians to middle-class concerns. As Sarter said, most Canadians buy, sell and rent their housing in the market, and don't see it as being part of infrastructure or social policy. I agree. It's worrying that for the first time, the new plan declares housing a human right. Does that mean someone will now be able to sue Ottawa if they aren't housed? Not in all cases, of course, but what about the idea that if you want housing or anything else, you should work for it instead of expecting others to provide it? I guess, silly me, that's old school thinking. Clark at postmedia.com. Gordon Clark is a columnist and editorial pages editor for The Province. Letters to the editor can be sent to provletters@theprovince.com.